Chapter 1: Arrival. The year was 2437, and Earth had grown weary of itself. Cities had risen into steel mountains, oceans boiled with industry, and the skies were thick with the haze of progress. Humanity had reached a point where survival meant expansion beyond its cradle. Colonization was no longer ambition, it was necessity. The Los was chosen not for its riches, nor for its proximity, but for its distance. It lay far beyond the familiar trade routes, a world hidden in the quiet corridors of space. The planet was a jewel of green, wrapped in forests so vast they dwarfed the Amazon, rivers that shimmered like silver veins, and skies painted with twin moons that danced in eternal harmony. But the Los was not empty. Its people, tall, broad-shouldered beings with bronze skin and eyes like molten amber, lived in castles of stone, wielded iron swords, and prayed to gods of fire and rain. Their world was medieval, their knowledge bound to earth and sky, yet their culture was rich with song, myth, and ritual. The humans who came to the Los knew the rules. Never reveal yourselves. Never interfere. Never let them see the truth. For if the locals discovered the strangers in their forest, war would follow, and Earth's fragile colony would be crushed before it could grow. The landing was silent. Cloaked ships descended through the atmosphere, their engines whispering against the wind. They touched down in the heart of the great forest, where the canopy rose like a cathedral of living green. The settlement was built quickly, domes of alloy hidden beneath camouflage nets, drones weaving patterns of deception across the treetops. They called it Haven. Haven was a paradox. It was a sanctuary, a place where humanity could begin anew. Yet it was also a prison, bound by secrecy and fear. Every step outside the perimeter was a risk. Every sound carried through the trees like a warning bell. The colonists lived beneath the canopy, where sunlight fractured into emerald shards and the air smelled of moss and rain. Commander Elara Vey stood at the edge of the settlement, gazing into the endless green. She was a woman forged by duty, her hair cropped short, her eyes sharp as steel. She had led the mission, chosen silence over conquest, and now bore the weight of secrecy. Her people were scientists, engineers, dreamers, not soldiers. Yet they carried weapons, cloaked ships, and the burden of deception. She thought often of Earth, of the crowded cities and the restless oceans. She thought of the promises made to her crew, that the Los would be a new beginning, a place where humanity could thrive. But as she listened to the forest, the distant calls of creatures, the rustle of unseen wings, she wondered if they had traded one prison for another. The locals called the forest Elerin, the Sea of Green. To them, it was sacred, a place of spirits and shadows. Few dared to enter, and those who did returned with tales of strange lights and whispers in the dark. Already, the humans had become part of the myth. On the third night after landing, a patrol reported movement near the perimeter. A group of locals, hunters perhaps, had wandered close to Haven. The colonists scrambled to hide evidence, shutting down lights, silencing drones, covering tracks. The hunters passed through, unaware, yet one lingered. He gazed into the trees, his amber eyes wide, as if sensing something beyond sight. Elara watched from the shadows. She felt the weight of the moment, the fragile line between secrecy and discovery. The hunter turned away, vanishing into the forest, but the image lingered in her mind. They will come again, she thought. And next time, we may not be ready. The colony settled into routine. Days were spent gathering resources, studying the planet's flora and fauna, and maintaining the cloaking systems. Nights were filled with whispers, of Earth, of home, of the locals beyond the trees. Some dreamed of contact, of sharing knowledge and forging alliances. Others feared the consequences, imagining swords raised against rifles, castles crumbling beneath orbital fire. Elara enforced the pact of silence. No contact, no interference, no mistakes. Yet she knew that secrecy was fragile, and myths had a way of growing. Strange lights flickered in the canopy. Whispers spread from village to village. And soon, the humans would become more than settlers. They would become legends. Chapter 2: The Pact of Silence. The colony had survived its first week on the Los, but survival was not enough. Commander Elara Vey knew that secrecy was their true lifeline. The forest was vast, yes, but not infinite. The locals lived close enough that a single mistake could unravel everything. On the seventh night, Elara gathered the colonists in the central dome. The air was heavy with humidity, the scent of damp earth clinging to their uniforms. A faint hum from the cloaking generators filled the silence. She stood before them, her posture rigid, her voice sharp. "We are guests here," she began. Uninvited guests. The people of the Los do not know us, and they must never know us. If they discover Haven, they will see us as invaders, not settlers. And if they see our technology, they will see us as gods or demons. Either way, it will destroy them and us. She paused, letting the words sink in. Faces stared back at her, scientists, engineers, medics, farmers. None were soldiers, yet all carried the weight of discipline. This is the pact of silence, Elara continued. No contact, no interference, no mistakes. We will live in the shadows of this forest. We will study, we will build, but we will remain unseen. If you break this pact, you endanger us all. The colonists murmured, uneasy. Some nodded in agreement, others shifted uncomfortably. Dr. Colin Rowe, the chief biologist, raised his hand. His voice was calm but questioning. Commander, the locals are not hostile. They are curious, yes, but they are not conquerors. Could we not guide them? Share knowledge slowly, carefully. Elara's gaze hardened. And what happens when they see our ships? Our medicine? Our weapons? They will not understand. They will worship us, or they will fear us. Either path leads to ruin. We are not here to rule, Doctor. We are here to survive. Kalen lowered his hand, but the doubt lingered in his eyes. The pact was signed that night. Each colonist pressed their thumb to a digital slate, a symbolic gesture more than a binding law. Yet the weight of it was real. They were bound to silence, to deception, to a life lived in shadows. Days turned into weeks. Haven thrived in secrecy. Crops were planted in concealed plots. Drones patrolled the perimeter, and the colonists learned to move like ghosts among the trees. They spoke in whispers, covered their tracks, and buried their waste deep beneath the soil. But secrecy was fragile. One evening, a group of locals ventured closer than ever before. They were hunters, clad in leather and iron, their faces painted with ash. They carried bows and spears, moving cautiously through the undergrowth. The colonists watched from hidden vantage points, hearts pounding. A drone hovered silently above, its sensors recording every detail. The hunters paused near a stream, their amber eyes scanning the forest. One knelt, touching the ground as if sensing something unseen. Elara ordered silence. No movement, no sound. The hunters lingered, then retreated, vanishing into the green. But the encounter left its mark. That night, whispers spread through Haven. Some feared discovery, others spoke of opportunity. The locals were close, too close. How long could the pact hold? Elara stood alone beneath the twin moons, her thoughts heavy. She knew the forest could not hide them forever. Myths were already forming. Strange lights in the canopy, whispers in the dark, the locals spoke of spirits. And soon, those spirits would become legends. Chapter 3. First Encounters. The Pact of Silence held firm through the first month, but silence was never absolute. The forest was alive, restless, and it carried sounds farther than the colonists expected. Drones hummed faintly in the canopy, cloaking nets rustled in the wind, and the faint glow of artificial lights sometimes pierced the night. It was inevitable that the locals would notice. One morning, as mist curled through the trees, a group of villagers entered the forest. They were hunters, clad in leather and iron, their faces painted with ash. They moved cautiously, bows strung, eyes sharp. The colonists spotted them first. Sensors triggered alarms, and Haven fell into a tense hush. Commander Elara Vey ordered immediate lockdown. Lights dimmed, drones retreated, and every colonist froze in place. The hunters advanced, unaware of the silent eyes watching them. Dr. Colin Rowe stood beside Elara at the observation post. His voice was low, urgent. They're too close. If they find the perimeter, they'll know something is here. Elara's jaw tightened. They won't find it. Not today. The hunters paused near a stream, kneeling to drink. One of them, younger than the rest, with amber eyes that seemed to glow in the mist, looked up suddenly. He scanned the trees, his gaze lingering on the hidden dome. For a heartbeat, Elara thought he could see them. Then he turned away. The hunters moved on, vanishing into the green. Haven exhaled as one. But the encounter left ripples. That night, whispers spread through the village beyond the forest. Strange lights had been seen. Shadows moved where none should be. The hunters spoke of spirits, of beings who watched from the trees. The colonists listened through intercepted signals, their hearts heavy. Already, the myths were growing. Days later, another group entered the forest. This time, they carried torches, their flames flickering against the canopy. They moved with purpose, as if searching. The colonists scrambled again, covering tracks, silencing machines, hiding evidence. Yet one mistake nearly shattered the pact. A drone malfunctioned, its cloaking field flickering. For a brief moment, its metallic frame shimmered in the torchlight. One of the villagers gasped, pointing. The others turned, eyes wide. Elara's voice cut through Haven like a blade. "Shut it down. Now." The drone vanished, its systems collapsing into silence. The villagers whispered among themselves, fear and awe mingling. They spoke of winged spirits, of beings who flew through the forest unseen. When they returned to their village, the story spread like wildfire. The forest was alive, they said. Spirits dwelled within, watching, waiting. Some claimed they were protectors. Others feared they were demons. The colonists gathered in the central dome, tension thick in the air. Kalen spoke first. "We cannot keep this up forever. Every encounter strengthens their myths. Every mistake feeds their legends. Sooner or later, they will come searching." Elara's eyes were cold, resolute. "Then we will remain shadows. Let them believe in spirits. Let them tell stories. As long as they do not see the truth, Haven survives." But even she knew the truth. Myths had power. And once born, they could not be silenced. Chapter 4, Legends Born. The forest had always been a place of mystery to the people of the Los. They called it Elerin, the Sea of Green, and spoke of spirits that dwelled beneath its canopy. But now, with the colonists hidden within, the whispers grew louder, the stories richer. In the villages beyond the forest, hunters spoke of strange lights that flickered among the branches, of shadows that moved without sound, of winged beings that vanished into the night. Children listened wide-eyed, elders nodded gravely, and priests declared that the gods had returned. The humans listened to these tales through intercepted signals, their hearts heavy. They had meant to remain unseen, but their presence was already shaping myth. Commander Elara Vey gathered her council in Haven's central dome. The air was tense, the hum of cloaking generators filling the silence. "They are speaking of us," Elara said. "Already, we are spirits in their stories. If this continues, they will come searching." Dr. Kalen Rowe leaned forward, his eyes bright with curiosity. "Perhaps that is not a curse, Commander. Legends can protect us. If they believe we are spirits, they may fear the forest. They may leave us alone." Elara shook her head. "Or they may seek us out, desperate for answers. Myths are not walls, Doctor. They are doors, and once opened, they cannot be closed." Outside Haven, the forest pulsed with life. Drones moved silently through the canopy, recording the locals' movements. Colonists worked in shadows, planting crops, repairing systems, living like ghosts. Yet every flicker of light, every hum of machinery, fed the growing legends. In one village, a priest stood before a crowd, his voice rising with fervor. "The spirits of Elerin walk among us," he declared. "They are guardians, watchers from the heavens. They fly through the forest unseen, their wings shimmering like fire. They are not to be feared, but revered." The crowd murmured, awed. Offerings were left at the forest's edge. Bowls of grain, carved idols, whispered prayers. The colonists watched from hidden vantage points, stunned. Elara's voice was cold when she addressed her people. "We are becoming gods in their eyes. That is dangerous. Worship breeds expectation, and expectation breeds disappointment. If they seek miracles, we cannot give them. If they seek salvation, we cannot provide it. We are not their gods. We are fugitives." But the myths grew stronger. Hunters claimed to see figures moving among the trees, clad in silver light. Children spoke of voices in the wind, guiding them home. Villagers swore that the spirits had healed wounds, though in truth it was only the forest's herbs. The colonists debated endlessly. Some saw opportunity, a chance to shape culture, to guide the locals toward peace. Others saw only danger, the risk of discovery, of war. Elara stood alone beneath the twin moons, her thoughts heavy. She knew the truth. Secrecy was fragile, and myths had power. Already, the humans were no longer settlers. They were legends, and legends could not be silenced. Chapter 5, The Watchers. The legends of the forest spread quickly across the Los. Villages whispered of spirits who flew unseen, of voices that guided hunters home, of lights that shimmered among the branches. What had once been superstition was now conviction. The forest was alive, and its secrets demanded to be known. It began with small groups, hunters, priests, and curious youths, venturing deeper into Elerin. They carried torches and charms, their faces painted with symbols of protection. They called themselves Watchers, seekers of truth who would uncover the mysteries of the spirits. From Haven, the colonists observed them with growing unease. Drones tracked their movements, recording every step. The watchers moved cautiously, marking trees with carved symbols, leaving offerings of grain and carved idols. They spoke prayers aloud, asking the spirits to reveal themselves. Commander Elara Vey watched from the command dome, her expression grim. "They are searching for us," she said. "Every day they come closer. The pact of silence is holding, but it is being tested." Dr. Kalen Rowe leaned over the console, studying the images. "They are not hostile. They are curious. If we guide them, even subtly, we could shape their beliefs. We could protect Haven through myth." Elara's voice was sharp. "Myth is not protection. It is a trap. If they believe we are gods, they will demand miracles. If they believe we are demons, they will demand blood. Either way, we lose." The watchers pressed deeper into the forest. One evening, they camped near the perimeter of Haven, their torches flickering against the trees. The colonists held their breath, every sound magnified in the silence. A drone malfunctioned again, its cloaking field flickering. For a heartbeat, its metallic frame shimmered in the firelight. The watchers gasped, pointing, whispering in awe. One fell to his knees, declaring that the spirits had revealed themselves. Elara ordered the drone shut down immediately. The forest fell silent once more, but the damage was done. The watchers returned to their village with tales of silver wings and glowing eyes. The legend grew stronger. Within Haven, tension mounted. Some colonists argued for stricter measures, fewer drones, less activity, deeper concealment. Others argued for controlled contact, believing secrecy was unsustainable. Elara stood firm. "We remain shadows. Let them believe in spirits. Let them tell stories. But we will not reveal ourselves. The pact holds." Yet even she knew the truth. The watchers would not stop. Myths had power, and curiosity was relentless. The forest was no longer enough to hide them. Chapter 6. The Pact Tested. The watchers pressed deeper into Elerin, their torches flickering against the canopy, their chants echoing through the trees. They sought the spirits, desperate to glimpse the beings who had become the heart of their legends. But the forest held dangers beyond myth. It was during one of these expeditions that the colonists' drones detected movement. Not human, not local, but something far larger. The creature emerged from the shadows like a nightmare given form. Its body was covered in thick, scaled hide, its limbs powerful, its eyes glowing with predatory hunger. It moved silently, yet every step shook the ground. The colonists had cataloged many species since landing, but this one was different. It was a predator of the deep forest, rarely seen, feared even by the locals. The villagers called it Vorash, the Devourer. Legends spoke of its appetite for flesh, its ability to tear through stone walls, its roar that could shatter courage. Commander Elara Vey studied the drone footage, her face pale. "If the watchers encounter this creature, they will not survive." Dr. Kalen Rowe leaned forward, his voice urgent. "Then we must help them. We cannot stand by and watch them die." Elara's eyes hardened. "If we intervene, we reveal ourselves. The pact of silence will be broken. They will see our weapons, our technology. They will know the spirits are real and human." The council erupted in debate. Some argued for intervention, believing that saving lives was worth the risk. Others insisted that secrecy must hold, that the colony's survival outweighed the fate of a few villagers. "They are searching for us," one colonist said bitterly. "If they die, it is by their own choice." They entered the forest knowing its dangers. Kalen's voice rose above the murmurs. "We came here to survive, yes, but also to preserve humanity's soul. If we let them die when we could save them, what does that make us? Shadows? Or cowards?" Elara remained silent, her gaze fixed on the footage of the creature prowling through the undergrowth. She knew the truth. If the watchers were attacked, the colonists would face a choice that could shatter the pact forever. That night, as the watchers camped near the perimeter, the Vorash moved closer. Its massive form slipped through the trees, its eyes glowing in the torchlight. The villagers stirred, sensing danger. In Haven, alarms blared. Colonists rushed to the command dome, voices urgent, hearts pounding. Elara stood at the center, torn between duty and conscience. "Do we save them?" she whispered. "Or do we let the forest claim them?" The question hung in the air, heavy as the silence that followed. Chapter 7. The Hunt. Word of the Vorash spread like wildfire. Villagers no longer whispered of spirits alone. They spoke of a beast that prowled the forest, a terror that threatened both their homes and their faith. Fear became resolve. The Watchers, now joined by warriors and priests, declared they would hunt the creature and prove themselves worthy of the spirit's protection. The preparations were swift. Iron blades were sharpened, shields reinforced, and charms blessed in firelight. At dusk, a procession of torches wound into Elara, their glow swallowed by the endless green. Songs of courage echoed, though every voice trembled beneath the weight of what awaited them. From Haven, the colonists observed in silence. Commander Elara Vey stood at the command dome, watching the hunting party advance. She did not repeat her warnings. The council already knew the stakes. Intervention meant exposure. Inaction meant blood. Dr. Colonized broke the silence. They marched toward death. If the Vorash strikes, they will not endure. Elara's reply was measured, her tone stripped of emotion. Then the forest will decide their fate. The hunt pressed deeper. Hours passed, the torches dwindled, and the forest grew restless. Then, without warning, the Vorash emerged. Its roar shattered the night, scattering birds into the sky. The beast lunged, claws tearing through shields, its massive form scattering warriors like leaves in a storm. Chaos erupted. Torches fell, screams pierced the canopy, and the Watchers fought desperately against a predator beyond their strength. In Haven, alarms blared. Colonists crowded the dome, eyes fixed on the unfolding carnage. Some shouted for action, others for restraint. Elara stood unmoving, her gaze locked on the screens. The choice was clear, yet unbearable. Remain hidden and let the Vorash claim them, or reveal Haven's power and shatter the pact forever. For the first time since landing, silence was not enough. Chapter 8: The Divide. The Vorash's attack left scars not only on the villagers, but on Haven itself. The colonists had watched the carnage unfold in silence, torn between conscience and survival. When dawn broke, the forest was quiet again, but inside the domes, voices rose like storm winds. For the first time since landing, Haven was no longer united. Two factions emerged. The Pragmatists, led by Commander Elara Vey, insisted the pact of silence must hold. To them, secrecy was survival, and any act of intervention would doom the colony. The Idealists, with Dr. Colonized at their center, argued that humanity's purpose was not only to endure but to act with compassion. To them, saving the villagers, even at the cost of exposure, was the only moral path. The debates were no longer whispers. They were shouted across the council chamber, spilling into the corridors, dividing friendships. Farmers argued with engineers, medics with scientists. Some colonists began to avoid one another, meals eaten in silence, eyes averted. Elara stood before her people, her voice sharp but weary. We are not gods. We are not saviors. We are survivors. If we reveal ourselves, we invite war. If we remain hidden, we endure. Colonized countered, his words burning with conviction. Survival without humanity is emptiness. If we let them die when we could save them, we become less than shadows. We become cowards. The divide deepened. Some colonists began preparing weapons, convinced that conflict with the locals was inevitable. Others secretly drafted plans for controlled contact, imagining alliances forged in honesty rather than deception. Outside, the forest remained indifferent. The Vorash prowled unseen, the Watchers regrouped, and the myths grew stronger. But inside Haven, the true danger was no longer the beast or the villagers. It was the fracture within. Elara knew the colony could not survive long in division. Yet she also knew that unity built on silence was fragile. The pact had been tested, and now it was breaking. Chapter 9: Ascension. The divide within Haven had reached its breaking point. Arguments no longer ended in silence. They ended in action. While Elara's pragmatists reinforced cloaking systems and tightened patrols, Colonized's idealists prepared for the inevitable moment when secrecy would collapse. That moment came sooner than anyone expected. The Vorash struck again, this time not at hunters, but at a village itself. The beast tore through wooden walls, scattering families into the night. Fires spread, screams echoed, and the Watchers fought desperately to drive it back. Their weapons splintered against its hide, their courage faltered beneath its roar. From Haven, the colonists watched in horror. The village was only a few kilometers beyond the forest's edge, too close to ignore. Drones transmitted images of chaos. Children fleeing, warriors falling, priests crying out to the spirits for salvation. Elara stood frozen, her hands clenched. She had sworn to protect the pact, but the sight of the devastation pierced her resolve. Kalen's voice cut through the command dome, fierce and unyielding. Now is the time. If we do nothing, they all die. If we act, we become the spirits they already believe in. This is our chance to ascend. The council erupted, but the decision was already made. Elara gave the order. Haven's defenses came alive. Cloaked drones descended from the canopy, their weapons blazing with precision. The Vorash roared as beams of light struck its hide, forcing it back. Colonists in exosuits emerged from the shadows, moving with speed and strength beyond human limits. To the villagers, it was as if gods had descended. The battle was swift but unforgettable. The Vorash fell beneath the combined firepower, its massive body collapsing into the flames. Silence followed, broken only by the villagers' cries of awe. They fell to their knees, whispering prayers. "The spirits have come," they said. "The guardians of Elerin walk among us." Elara stood at the edge of the battlefield, her figure illuminated by the twin moons. She knew the pact was broken, but in its place, something new had been born. The humans were no longer shadows. They were legends made flesh.
Chapter 10. The Night of Fire and Wings. My name is Darren, son of Harel, hunter of the village of Lethar. I will never forget the night the spirits came, nor the terror that walked before them. The forest warned us first. The torches flickered though no wind blew, and the silence grew so heavy it pressed against our ears. Then the ground began to tremble, at first faint, like distant thunder, then stronger, until the earth itself seemed to shudder beneath us. The roar followed, a sound so vast it seemed to rip the sky apart. It was not the cry of an animal, but something older, something born of hunger and rage. My blood froze. Mothers clutched their children, priests faltered mid-chant, and even the bravest warriors hesitated. The Vorash burst from the shadows, scales glistening like iron, claws long enough to tear through walls, eyes burning with hunger. The stench of its breath rolled over us, thick and suffocating, as if death itself had exhaled. We fought, but our weapons were nothing. Arrows splintered against its hide, spears bent and broke, shields shattered like clay. I saw comrades crushed beneath its weight, their cries silenced in an instant. The beast tore through huts, scattering families, its roar drowning out every plea for mercy. Flames spread, painting the night in red and gold, but the fire did not slow it. The Vorash was larger than fear itself, and in its presence, hope felt like a lie. I remember clutching my bow, hands trembling, knowing it was useless. My brother fell beside me, his shield split in two, his eyes wide with disbelief as the beast's shadow swallowed him. I wanted to run, but my legs refused. Terror rooted me to the earth. And then the sky answered. Silver wings descended, shimmering like fire. Figures clad in radiant armor moved with impossible speed, their weapons blazing with thunder. The Vorash turned, its eyes blazing and charged, but the spirits met it head-on. One raised a weapon that spat bolts of light, each strike exploding against the beast's chest and forcing it back. Another leapt from the canopy, landing upon the Vorash's shoulders, driving a spear of flame into its scales. The creature roared, thrashing, trees snapping beneath its weight. The spirits did not falter. They moved as if the air itself obeyed them, darting, striking, vanishing, reappearing. A storm of fire and light surrounded the beast. Every blow shook the ground. Every strike carved sparks into the night. The Vorash lunged, claws sweeping wide, but a spirit raised a shield that glowed like the moon. The impact rang like iron on stone, yet the spirit stood firm, forcing the beast back step by step. Another unleashed a torrent of light from their weapon, searing the Vorash's flank. The smell of burning flesh filled the air, and the beast howled in rage. It swung wildly, but the spirits were faster, weaving around its strikes, cutting deep into its hide. I watched, trembling, as one spirit vaulted high, their blade igniting in a blaze of white fire. They plunged it into the Vorash's throat. The beast staggered, choking, its roar breaking into a guttural scream. The spirits pressed their assault. Thunder cracked, fire blazed, and the Vorash collapsed beneath the storm. Its massive body hit the earth with a crash that shook the village. Silence followed. Smoke curled into the sky. Torches flickered, and the spirits stood among us, glowing beneath the twin moons. We fell to our knees. Tears blurred my vision, but I saw enough. The guardians of Elara had come. They were not myths. They were real. That night, I swore an oath. I would carry this story to my children, and they to theirs. The night of fire and wings would never be forgotten.
Chapter 11. Ashes of Silence. Commander Elara Vey stood at the edge of the ruined village, the twin moons casting pale light over the devastation. The Vorash lay broken in the center, its massive body still smoldering where the weapons had struck. Around it, her people moved swiftly, medics tending to the wounded, engineers scanning for traces of their presence, soldiers standing guard with weary vigilance. The cries of the villagers pierced the night. Mothers wept over lifeless children, warriors groaned as wounds were bound, priests whispered prayers over the fallen. The air was thick with smoke and grief. Elara's hands trembled as she watched. Her soldiers had survived with only minor injuries. A few burns, a fractured arm, exhaustion etched into their faces. Haven's technology had shielded them, but the villagers had no such protection. Their dead lay scattered among the ruins, their huts reduced to ash. She walked among the wreckage, her boots crunching over shattered wood and scorched earth. A medic looked up at her, his face streaked with soot. "Our people are safe," he said quietly. "But theirs," his voice broke off, heavy with sorrow. Elara nodded, unable to speak. Every body carried past her was a weight upon her chest. Every scream was a reminder of what secrecy had cost them. If they had acted sooner, perhaps fewer would have died. If they had stayed hidden, perhaps the villagers would have perished entirely. Either way, the pact was broken. Dr. Kalen Rowe approached, his face lit by firelight. "You did what had to be done," he said softly. "Without us, the Vorash would have slaughtered them all." Elara's voice was low, heavy with regret. "And yet look around you, Kalen. Children dead, homes destroyed. They kneel before us now, not because they were saved, but because they have nothing left. We are not gods. We are the shadow of their ruin." Kalen's gaze was steady. "Or perhaps we are the light that kept them from total darkness." But Elara could not find light in the ashes. She saw only the faces of the dead, the broken huts, the shattered silence. The pact had been tested, and she had failed. Before the first light touched the horizon, Elara gave the order to withdraw. Haven's soldiers and medics melted back into the forest, carrying only their wounded. By the time dawn broke, the humans were gone. The villagers gathered in the ruins, their voices rising in prayer to the spirits who had saved them. They did not see mortals leaving in silence, only gods who had vanished into the heavens. And Elara Vey carried the weight of their illusion and their grief alone. Chapter 12. Echoes and Embers. 2 months had passed since the night of fire and wings. The village of Lethar bore its scars, but life had returned. New huts rose where ash had once smoldered. Children's laughter echoed faintly through the rebuilt streets, and the watchers patrolled with renewed vigilance. The Vorash was gone, yet its memory lingered in every whispered prayer, every carved symbol of the spirits who had descended from the heavens. The humans watched from afar. Haven's council had tightened its protocols, cloaking patrols more carefully, limiting intervention to the barest necessity. Commander Elara Vey carried the weight of her decision still, but she had sworn that no order of hers would again bring such destruction. "We will not make the same mistakes," she told her officers. "We will protect, but we will not rule." Dr. Kalen Rowe disagreed quietly, believing the seeds of faith had already been planted. But even he knew the danger of being worshipped as gods. The colony moved in silence, their presence hidden once more, their regret shaping every choice. Yet beyond the forest, whispers spread. Traders carried tales of silver wings and fire-forged guardians. Priests spoke of spirits who walked among mortals. And in the halls of distant kingdoms, rulers listened. One such ruler was King Mauric of the Kingdom of Droswin, a warlord whose armies had bent half the land to his will. He sat upon a throne of blackened steel, his banners heavy with the sigil of the wolf, listening to the stories brought by his scouts. Spirits, he murmured, a smile curling at the edge of his lips. Or gods who wield fire and thunder. Intrigue burned in his gaze. If such beings existed, they could be allies or weapons. He rose from his throne, the sound of armor echoing through the chamber. "Find them," he commanded. "Bring me the truth of these spirits. If they are gods, I will kneel. If they are men, I will make them mine." Far away, in the quiet of Haven, Elara Vey looked out across the forest, unaware that a storm was gathering. The villagers rebuilt. The humans hid. And the king of Droswin marched toward destiny.